Fresh off his speech in South Korea, President Trump heading to Beijing. Will he stand up to the Chinese president or back down on his campaign pledge to crack down on China's market manipulation in the hopes of getting their help in containing North Korea? All coming up. President Trump just wrapped up his speech in South Korea, and he's heading to China at any moment now. The Chinese are literally promising to roll out the red carpet for him. And China's trying to avoid facing consequences for their rampant cheating on trade. And the president may let him off the hook so long as they help him contain a rogue North Korea. Here's President Trump talking tough on China and trade during the 2016 campaign.
You look at what China is doing to our country in terms of making our product. They're devaluing their currency, and there's nobody in our government to fight them.
But now his message has changed dramatically.
I applaud China for breaking off all banking relationships with North Korea, something that people would have thought unthinkable even 2 months ago. I want to thank President Xi.
Now, America has serious problems with China. It's the world's most populous country, and it's aiming to edge us out economically and militarily. And by the way, they have an ambitious plan. Many of you have not heard of this, but it's called Made in China 2025. Now, check it out. It's a 10-year program, and the goal is to transform China into an advanced manufacturing leader, especially in the following: information technology, robotics, space and commercial aviation equipment, biomedical engineering, rail manufacturing, everything. Basically everything. Tools, 3D printing, I could say software engineering, goes on and on. And we need to understand this, that China, even if they do help us with North Korea, they're not going to stop until they achieve total hegemony in their region, and I think in other continents, Africa and beyond. That's the goal. And joining us now for reaction to my comments and the president's speech from New York, Gordon Chang. He's a Daily Beast columnist and an East Asia expert. And here in Washington with me, Mike Pillsbury. He's the director of the Center for Chinese Strategy at the Hudson Institute and the author of the fantastic book, The 100-Year Marathon. Let's start with you, Mike. The president's speech, first, your reaction to it.
Oh, I thought it was very good. He's able to balance the idea of threatening North Korea, but also holding out the path. He used the word path to them. And he also invoked Little Rocket Man's grandfather. I thought that was quite a brilliant touch. What your grandfather wanted is not what we have today in North Korea. It's really hell, he said. So he's shaming the grandson and then offering the path out toward economic growth, better relations, and then giving the price. You've got to give up these nuclear weapons. I thought it was a very good speech.
We're going to get to China in a moment, but Gordon, confronting evil, we see this in Texas, in the United States, with this horrific shooting. But the president confronted evil in his remarks tonight. Your perspective.
Oh, absolutely. You know, President Trump talked about freedom, free societies, free markets. The rest of the region, East Asia, heard this as America's response to China's Xi Jinping, who on October 18th gave his 3-hour, 23-minute work report, which is a speech that extolled the opposite, that extolled state domination of society, state-dominated markets. So it's very important for President Trump to say these things because it cut to the heart of the differences between the United States and China, and it also explained the strength of the American system, the strength of the free world. So I give him really high marks for doing this because that had to be said.
Now, I want to play a soundbite for both of you from President Trump last week. I interviewed him. And actually, we'll play John Kelly first. We'll have time to get Trump. But this is General Kelly from last week in my interview. And I asked him about our relationship with China. Let's watch.
My hat's off to them for taking advantage of whatever they've been able to take advantage of to have that trade relationship. This president is committed to changing that relationship, but to do it in a collegial way.
Collegial way, changing our relationship with China. I did ask President Trump about it. We don't have time to play the whole bite, but he basically said, look, they're really helping us on North Korea. They're doing a lot to help now. And so it's not as simple. Essentially saying to me, Mike, it's not as simple as it was when I was talking about this issue in 2016 in the campaign.
President Trump has also kind of previewed what's going to happen tonight when he flies to Beijing. He said, we'll see. So he's left it open. I think General Kelly is known as a pragmatic sort of optimist who wants to get the best out of people who work for him. But he's decidedly more optimistic than the president, I think.
Gordon, the president delinked North Korea, our problem with, South Korea, and our trade imbalance with South Korea after that free trade agreement we signed with Bush. He delinked that from the helping South Korea and working with them against the North Korean threat. So he delinked trade from national security. But it doesn't look like he's going to do that with this Beijing event tomorrow. It looks like we're going to kind of back off a little bit on some of this concern or action against China on the trade cheating, which maybe that's just pragmatic, but it's a shame because we're really on the cusp of holding China accountable, and we might, I guess, not be able to do that now because of the North Korean threat.
I suspect that President Trump will go after China not only on trade, but also on North Korea, in South China Sea, Taiwan, cyber attacks, all the rest of it. And the reason is that, as you pointed out, China is challenging the United States across the board. And this is not just an Asia issue. You know, China is challenging the American democracy, American free societies. They do this almost every day in their propaganda, in People's Daily, Global Times, China Daily, all the rest of it. So President Trump really doesn't have a choice. He's got to confront this challenge in all of its facets. So I believe that despite what we've heard so far, that the president is going to be forced to do this. And if for no other reason, there's 2018 elections. You have Steve Bannon, who said he's going to make China the issue in every race. And that's a very important thing, because the challenge from China is, North Korea is a danger, but North Korea is only a danger because of China. China's been weaponizing North Korea. President Trump talked about that yesterday in Seoul. That's very important, that China is held accountable for sending weapons and arms and technology to the North Koreans.
I hope you are right, Gordon. I am concerned. Mike, a friend of mine today sent me an email about Goldman Sachs. China's sovereign wealth fund plans up to $5 billion in additional U.S. investments. And his message to me was, Goldman is helping China take over our industrial sector in the United States. A lot of money to be made with China buying up American companies, investing huge in the United States. Big money.
There's a book about it by Hank Paulson, where he pretty much recounts how he succeeded as representative of Goldman Sachs in doing just that. He showed the Chinese how to convert their state-owned enterprises and float them in Hong Kong or in Wall Street. And they thanked him. Goldman Sachs has announced over the years it's made billions and billions off this. They're very proud of it.
Remember Smithfield? China came in and bought. They wanted to buy, Gordon, right, semiconductor industry in Seattle. They were shut down by the Committee on Foreign Investment, but they got a lot of extra cash for that trade surplus. They got a lot of cash to float, and I don't think we're allowed to go and just buy huge industries in China. Are we, Gordon? Are we able to do that in Beijing?
No, we're not permitted to do that. And Xi Jinping, what he's done is he's taken state enterprises and he's made them invulnerable by essentially giving them state subsidies. And you mentioned this Made in China 2025 initiative, which means to take 10 critical industries and make sure that China dominates them by the year 2025. Also, he's made a lot of these big state enterprises, already gargantuan, into formal state monopolies. In other words, reversing the process of reform. So, no, we can't buy that. And I think that in Washington right now, you have a consensus that China cannot be allowed to buy the American technology sector.
Yeah, Gordon and I disagree a little bit here. President Trump's got a strategy. Wilbur Ross has echoed it too recently. Personal relations with President Xi, the leader, the king as he called him, can go a long way toward changing the predatory policies of the Chinese.
I don't buy that. I think President Xi is so far ahead of the personal relation. I don't care how many times you have him at Mar-a-Lago. I don't care how much the red carpet is rolled out. They have a goal to dominate most industries in the world, and it might seem like a pie-in-the-sky thinking. I think they're well on the way to doing some of this. Space weaponry, all of this. But, Mike, you've become a powder puff. You've become,
no.
What is this?
What President
Relationship.
He's trying something here is very strategic.
It is.
He's going to give them a chance on their soil.
Okay, I got it. We're out of time.
He says, we'll see.
Okay, we'll see. Okay, we'll see. Gordon and Mike, great to see you both. And still ahead, establishment Republicans get socked tonight in Virginia. We're going to tell you why. Up next. Democrat Ralph Northam wins Virginia's governor's race, defeating Republican Ed Gillespie. President Trump sent his reaction to the results all the way from Asia, tweeting, "Ed Gillespie worked hard but did not embrace me or what I stand for." Don't forget, Republicans won 4 out of 4 House seats, and with the economy doing record numbers, will continue to win even bigger than before. Joining us now with a reaction from the Washington Examiner, Byron York, chief political correspondent there. Byron, Gillespie never jumped on board the Trump train. He's an old Bush hand. I think he gave it his best shot. He is who he is. He's not a populist conservative.
He did, but Virginia is essentially a blue state
Yep.
now. Northam won by 8 points. Hillary Clinton won by about 5 points. No Republican has won statewide since 2009. And it appears that, you know, those big suburban counties around Washington, D.C., just right over there, went even more for Northam than they did for Hillary, which I think
But what does that tell you? That tells you a populist conservative like Trump, who has a strong personality and a strong message, did do better. He didn't spend a lot of time campaigning in Virginia, Donald Trump. And Ed Gillespie tried to do this dance that I'm not going to campaign with Trump, but he'll tweet for me and he'll do a last-minute robocall. I think in the end that came off as desperate. And what if Gillespie had campaigned on preserving our history respectfully, Virginia first, law and order? Simple.
Well, the problem was Gillespie never felt comfortable with Trump.
Right.
Okay.
Duh.
So he's always asked about Trump, and you run for an office now, you're going to be asked about Trump.
But he looks
You know
uncomfortable,
that.
period. And the voters are smart in Virginia.
Exactly.
They didn't like that.
So they figured that he wasn't quite going to be himself, whatever that was. Now, we've known Ed Gillespie for a long time. He is as establishment Republican
lobbyist
as you can get. He was the head of the RNC. He was in the Bush White House, and he was a big lobbyist for a long time. So he's just a really establishment guy, and maybe he should have run as who he is.
Yeah. Well, I think in the end the Democrats are going to say, aha, Trump. First they were reporting that Gillespie keeps Trump at an arm's length. That was the narrative for most of the. Then it was Gillespie edges right to become like Trump, because then they knew the storyline that they wanted was Trump has no momentum in Virginia. Has no momentum. He's going down the tubes. But let's remember, you pointed out 2009, Byron. Barack Obama won triumphantly in 2008. The 2009 special election was Chris Christie in New Jersey and Bob McDonnell.
The two bright new faces of the Republican Party.
Now they're both
not so bright.
Not so bright, maybe. I mean, I like Chris Christie a lot, and Bob McDonnell. I actually like him as well. But as a barometer for the future, what does it really mean?
Well, first of all, Obama went on after 2009 to really take a big beating in the 2010 midterms. There's just no doubt about that. And most presidents do take a beating in their first midterm. So what does this say about 2018 and Donald Trump? I don't know. Probably nothing very good. Look, Democrats are going to be very, very excited about this.
No,
but remember,
they need something to be
excited
about.
We just had a bunch of special elections. Remember
Otherwise,
those?
It's Donna Brazile.
They not so good.
Yeah, otherwise Hillary's emails.
But they're coming off this string of losses in special elections, and now they've got a win they can point to.
Yeah. Well, I think again we'll see. They can get tax reform done. They can get this economy moving even in a faster pace. That will have a huge effect on the midterm elections. But they got to get it done. They got to put points on the board. If you're a Democrat, you got to be happy today. You got to be happy.
Talk to the Republican strategists trying to win 2018. They say if we do that, we'll win. If we don't, we're dead.
Byron York, always great to see you. Do not go away, because we're coming right back. Before we shove off this evening, more on why Republican Ed Gillespie lost his upset bid to become the next governor of Virginia. Now, remember last night, what did I say in The Angle? My book, Billionaire at the Barricades, Populist Revolution from Reagan to Trump, I made this point really consistently, that there is no middle ground with conservative populism. That is the wave of the future. That there is no constituency for open borders, open markets, and endless military interventionism. There's no constituency. So maybe Gillespie wouldn't have won if President Trump campaigned with him, but trying to be half in, half out with Donald Trump was never going to work. If you dip your toe just in a little bit, you're going to turn out like Ed Gillespie did, political roadkill. The glory days for the establishment Republicans are coming to a close. That's a fact. And we saw those results tonight. Up next, Shannon Bream. She has the big guest, Vice President Mike Pence. Take it away, Shannon.